Oh my. Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm Senator Chip Curry, and we'll be presiding over this work session of the Joint Standing Committee on Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business. For the good functioning of the committee, I've got a number of announcements, and I've got a little cheat sheet here to remind me of what they are. So, as you know, this format is in Zoom, and so it will be recorded on the committee's YouTube channel. If you are invited into the committee, you will be visible and heard if your computer is not, if your mic is not muted. The purpose of this meeting is for the committee to receive information from staff and others in order for members to consider the legislative proposals before them and make recommendations or reports to the legislature. Only committee members, the committee analysts, and those specifically invited to attend will be participating in the work session using Zoom. For members of the public wishing to observe this meeting, it is being live streamed on the committee's YouTube channel and will also be recorded for viewing after this meeting is concluded. We are also broadcasting the audio of this meeting on the legislature's website. If we do take any breaks, please be aware that the Zoom will be continuing. I think we're all pretty good about turning on and off our cameras. Just doing a double check. We have a quorum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1 senator. So we have a quorum to begin. And at this point, I will ask members to introduce themselves. Representative Geiger, can you start us off?
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Senator Curry. I am Representative Valley Geiger, District 93, Rockland and Owl's Head, speaking to you today from the State House.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Sarah Pepworth. I represent House District 133 in the Blue Hill Peninsula.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jack Ducharme. I'm representing House District 111 from Madison, Norridgewock, and Solon.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Representative Sue Austin, hailing from the great town of Gray. I also represent portions of Raymond, Casco, and Bryan Island, and I'm happy to report, at least here in my world, the National Weather Service finally turned up the thermometer.
Tavis Hassenfuss, representing House District 81, Winthrop, Reedfield, and part of Monmouth.
Since I don't see Representative La Rochelle, I think I'm next. Is that correct? Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sue Bernard. I represent District 149, which is Caribou, Westmanland, and New Sweden, home of these beautiful northern lights. And I promise to change the background out pretty soon, but welcome.
Good morning. I'm Representative Tiffany Roberts, your House Chair, representing House District 6, which is comprised of the majority of North and South Berwick.
And good morning again. I'm still Senator Chip Curry, and I represent Senate District 11, which includes the 26 rural, coastal, and island communities of Waldo County. A few more announcements or reminders that this is a public meeting, and as such, all of the substantive conversations need to happen via the part that is recorded. Chat is not recorded and available to the public, so if there are any substantive comments, those need to not be in chat, and we leave the chat for any technical assistance that is needed in communications with the clerk. I would like to introduce our clerk, Ms. Eva Reed, and she will be assisting assisting folks navigating in and out of the committee and managing other parts of the committee process. Ms. Reed has had some technical issues and had to jump over to another committee. I see your backdrop, it still says labor, but thank you for your flexibility in jumping over to another desk in order to facilitate today's meeting or help today's meeting work. The phone number available for you if people have technical issues and need to contact you. Can you tell us what that number is?
Since I am at the Labor and Housing desk right now, it is 287-1331.
287-1331. And if you call the number, if you look it up, call the number for the IDEA committee, it just means Ms. Reed will have to run across the the committee room, which we share in order to get to her typical desk. We also have with us Ms. Olson, Rachel Olson, who is our OPLA analyst, and you will see her today giving a committee analysis on the bills that are before us. And welcome, Ms. Olson. I think that leaves it for any of Ms. Chair Roberts. Have I forgotten anything that is critical?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. With that, we will open up the work session on LD 1885, an act to increase Maine's veterinary workforce. And Ms. Reed, if you can invite in Representative Fay and Mr. William Norbert. Appreciate that. And while they're coming in, actually, I want to give them a moment to come in. There is that pause that they're quite familiar with as you shift from attendee to panelist in the Zoom language, but you also don't hear anything. So sometimes if we ask questions, or it's disconcerting to come in partway through the conversation. Ms. Olson, would you walk us through your analysis?
I would be happy to. And I just want to note, I'm also apparently having technical difficulties, not with Zoom, but I uploaded the materials to the portal. And for some reason, they're not showing up, at least on my end, for the bill before us now, LD 1885. It did show up in 1896. I have a suspicion of why it's not working, but not something I can fix now. But all the materials were emailed out to the committee as well at about 9:15 for your reference. And there was also an email last night in regards to 1885 as well. So there were two.
So if we were to follow, in order to follow along, we should look to our email to see your analysis. And for those
yes.
watching, it will show up at a later point in our committee materials.
Yeah, and I apologize. There's an error with dates. There's two for some reason. So there's no way for me to distinguish when I click on them, which one is the right one. So hopefully they'll appear soon. I am going to share the screen, although I see it.
Thank you.
So today we have to start LD 1885. This is an act to increase Maine's veterinary workforce. So this bill amends the Maine Veterinary Medicine Loan Program, which is already in existence, in the following ways. It amends the definition of insufficient veterinary services to include an insufficient number of practitioners of emergency and critical care services, in addition to the livestock that is already in the program. It adds the option for veterinary students to qualify for the program by demonstrating an interest in working in underserved geographic regions of the state, which would be determined by the Commissioner of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry by rule. It increases the maximum number of annual loan awards from 2, which is its current number, to 10, but this is as resources allow. And it increases the maximum loan amount from $25,000 to $50,000 per year for a period of up to 4 years. But again, this is all dependent upon resources. I had some information requests. The first one was really directed towards Mr. Norbert, and who provided a memo with the information as well as the data that was requested regarding the current veterinary loan program. And just to remind everyone, this is a loan program. So you are awarded the loan, and then the loan has the ability to be forgiven after you complete your schooling if you meet the criteria. So it starts as a loan, and if you don't meet the criteria, then the loan would be paid back. But if you do meet the criteria, and there are some provisions outlined in the statute for that, including a prorated ability, then the loan could eventually be forgiven. And Mr. Norbert's numbers have detailed in the data the number of, or the amounts, excuse me, that have been forgiven as well as dispersed. Representative Andrews wanted to know more about if Maine recognizes out-of-state licenses for veterinarians. My understanding is yes, and there's sort of two ways to do that. It's not just a straight recognition. In order to be licensed as a veterinarian in Maine, one must show proof of qualifying education. So you have to hold a DVM, achievement of a passing score on an approved national exam, and achievement of a passing score on the main jurisprudence exam, as well as, of course, submit the completed application and pay the applicable fees. If you hold a license or have ever held a license in another jurisdiction, you must also submit license verifications for those other jurisdictions. If it's your first time being licensed, so of course that does not apply. We also have a provision on licensure by endorsement. So in this case, the individual must be licensed in good standing in another state, US territory, or Canada. They must show proof of achievement of a passing score on a national exam, achievement of passing score on the main jurisprudence exam, and proof of active practice of clinical veterinary medicine for 3,000 hours during the 3 years preceding application. And then, of course, application form and payment of required fees as well. In terms of the average salary, for a veterinarian in Maine, some of this information was put forward in testimony, although I pulled some additional information as well. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, as of May of 2018, the median, please know the difference between median and average, the median vet salary was $93,830. This is across the entire United States. The average vet salary for the class of 2018, according to the American Veterinary Medical Association, was $76,633. So that's an average, and that would be of recent graduates, class of 2018. I wasn't able to find the same type of what we might consider credible from like the BOL or the American Veterinary Medical Association data on Maine salaries. But I did do a review from companies that typically report such data. So this is more of a range, but it appears that the average salary in Maine is somewhere between the mid 80,000s to the mid 90,000s. The low end of salaries, which of course is dependent on location as well as years in the profession and whether or not you hold any specialty certifications. This would be around 60,000. And then I just want to note that veterinarians can be paid in a variety of ways. So some receive an annual salary, but others could work at an hourly rate. Others could be paid at a rate tied to the revenue that they generate or bring into the practice, or some combination of those. And then as we heard during testimony, additionally, some veterinarians take on additional hours at places like emergency clinics or other similar types of services in order to supplement their income. So that would be outside of their typical practice hours. I did pull a couple of other pieces of additional information. Again, some of this was provided in testimony as well, but according to the American Veterinary Medical Association, using data from class of 2019 graduates, the average student loan debt for veterinarians is $183,302. This does not include any undergraduate debt, and all students admitted to a DVM program must have completed a 4-year degree. This is in line with other similar medical degrees. A medical degree, a dental degree may carry more debt, but this is in line with what we would traditionally think. But what this usually creates is a debt to income ratio of 2 to 1, because salaries for veterinarians are considerably lower than those that go into the medical profession, the human medical profession. So I just like to also, there was some discussion around board certification and specialty practice. And so just to give us the lay of the land, this program is targeted to individuals who have graduated with a DVM and are practicing as a veterinarian in Maine. In order to practice as a veterinarian, you need to hold a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. You do not have to hold additional training above and beyond that. The schooling to become a veterinarian includes all the training and education to have clinical practice. It also has surgical rotations, and you can choose to specialize or to focus on certain elements as a part of your schooling, your regular 4-year Doctor of Veterinary Medicine program. But once you've graduated, if you would like to pursue a specialty area such as oncology, surgical practice, something like that, dental, then you could pursue, there are a couple of names for this, but essentially board certification. So this additional, you'd be a specialist. And these are additional training that take 2 to 3 years, involving a test and also what you might think of as like in residency requirements. But you have to be affiliated with a board certified college and work under board certified specialists in order to be to receive that type of education. And then there were questions. I think we all know from the public hearing, there are no veterinary schools in Maine. As a total, there are approximately 53 accredited colleges or schools of veterinary medicine worldwide. Around 30 of those are located within the United States. So if you'd like more, I did put a link to a map that has the dots of where all the different schools are located, both in North America and globally. So just to kind of understand the schooling. We did have many suggestions at the public hearing around ways to expand the current program. Representative Fay has provided an amendment to the committee for consideration. The amendment, which was provided at her request to the committee in advance, would require 4 of those 10 annual loans to be awarded to students pursuing large animal medicine, and the remaining slots would be open to all other eligible applicants. But in the event that there were fewer than 4 applicants determined to be pursuing large animal veterinary medicine, then those available slots could be awarded to other eligible applicants. But I'll note that all of this, of course, is dependent on funding. And then a number of people brought forward other suggestions that would help the veterinary medicine within the state and ensuring that large animal practice remains a focus of the program. So Dr. Bissell mentioned maintaining a certain number of slots specifically for large animal practice as represented in Representative Fay's amendment. Others suggested adding language that might broaden eligibility to include students interested in things such as laboratory veterinary medicine, but also to consider vet techs who are a crucial part of the industry as well. And just maybe and other potential ways to broaden it as well. So finally, a couple of other considerations for the committee before we move on. And the first is that in order for any of your statutory changes that you may put into effect to have an impact, additional funding is necessary for this program. With the increased loan amount and the increased number of awards, the estimated annual cost for the program would be $500,000. The current program uses $200,000, so an additional $300,000 would be required to fund the maximum number of awards allowed under the bill. And thank you to Mr. Norbert for this information. The committee can consider many ways to request that funding. I'm happy to talk more about that if the committee would like to pursue that avenue. And then I just also, in terms of clarifying sort of the field here, emergency and critical care services really covers a broad range of work. There are emergency clinics and hospitals within the state. We heard about the one in Scarborough that is really an emergency clinic and hospital with board certified specialists, and they deal with what would be some of the most serious and critical situations that pets may face: oncology, surgery, and other emergencies. They do not do what we would think of as the family practice side of veterinary medicine. No annual checkups, no annual vaccines. But emergency and critical care services can also be provided through what you think of as your traditional veterinarian. And that would depend on the practice's ability to offer such services regarding technology, but also manpower. But a lot of these could be offered either as your clinic having late night hours, an on-call person, or offering weekend services. That in order to provide these, you do not have to hold any additional certifications or board specialties. And I'll just note that the bill gives the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry the ability to create the definition of emergency and critical care for the purposes of this program. And then the last thing for consideration is, and this is just for the committee to think about, I'm not sure it necessarily requires any action, but currently a selection committee advises the authority in the development of application materials designed to identify students likely to practice livestock veterinary medicine. So the people who apply for this are either just about to start their schooling to get their DVM, or they're in the process of getting it, but they're not working. Currently, many veterinary programs offer livestock or large animal medicine areas of specialty or interest, specific classes. So it may be more easy to identify students who are interested in pursuing livestock veterinary medicine. So for the committee to think about, now the selection committee will also need to advise the authority in the development of application materials designed to identify students likely to practice emergency and critical care veterinary medicine, or to work in an underserved geographic region. I'll just note that those criteria may be more difficult to identify. And the fiscal impact, of course, has not yet been determined, but I'll note that should the committee want funding in order to institute changes to the statute, it would need to be identified. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the committee might have. And I know that Representative Fay is in the room as well.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. Can you, I have too many screens going on, so I don't have your document in front of me as well. I'm trying to get over to it. Can you repeat what was the average vet debt that in your research?
Yep, the average vet debt for a 2019 grad is $183,302. And this represents a significant increase in debt over the last 10 years. That has not kept pace with salary.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone have questions for Ms. Olson at this point, or would the committee prefer to hear from the bill sponsor and the amendment sponsor? Representative Pepper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Very helpful analysis as always. You said something about financing this. We had more information. Sorry about the annoying buzz. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, funding. You're wondering about funding.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So currently the bill doesn't have an appropriation section. There was no request for money to be added to the program. That could be added as an amendment to the bill, requesting funding to be included. If with an appropriation section, the bill would land on the appropriations table to be determined. This is similar to other bills that we worked on to increase similar programs last year that requested funding. And I potentially would like to have Mr. Norbert follow up on this as well. There are other ways to get funding, and the budget process is one, although we don't have much information about the budget yet. So I can't give you too much advice on that, but you might remember from last session that there were some requests put in by the IDEA committee for the consideration by those that do the budget to increase dollar amounts to certain agencies. So that is another avenue to consider.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Chair recognizes Representative Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rachel, I'm going to ask you to repeat the very last thing you said about not keeping up with. And I think, it was in pertaining to this profession, but can you go back and restructure that sentence? I'm not sure if you said the debt. No, the salary, the very last sentence.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It was, I could be clearer. All I meant is that the amount of debt that students are incurring in order to attend veterinary school is increasing at a rate that is greater than the salary that veterinarians receive.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
That helps.
So currently it appears that the average student who graduates will have a 2-to-1 debt to income ratio or greater.
And is that based on Maine
Those are based on US numbers. So in Maine, that could be much higher because our averages are usually a little lower, particularly if you are in, and this is especially true if you're in livestock, animal or large animal veterinary medicine, or in a rural region, or both. I mean, anecdotally, we know that some vets are even paid through barter.
Right. The other thing that you mentioned, that you said Maine does not track, was it this particular profession for salary, or is it all of our professions?
I won't say it's all. I just wasn't able to locate similar types of data in advance of today's work session. I'm not sure if we track the specific industry's salaries. I reviewed a number of sources that typically report salary data for people who are looking at a career in general. So rather than like the Bureau of Labor Statistics or the American Veterinary Association.
If you should find the answer to that, that would be quite interesting. And I'm wondering even if Mr. Norbert could help on that question when he comes in. Thank you very much.
Representative Austin,
Yes.
this is actually my field, and I work with students on loan debt and salaries. The Department of Labor federal government has a good stat on this. Would you like me to share it?
Sure.
Okay, let me find the right Zoom link here. And I pulled this up from what's called ONET Online, and it's the federal government's Department of Labor, and you can do zip code based searches. And let me share my screen here. So this is Maine. I searched for veterinarians and I put in Presque Isle zip code.
Mhm.
And as we look at this 51,040 is the bottom 10% of the sector for veterinarians. Median is at average, sorry, not median, average is 78,940, and the high end and this is all related to the Northern Maine non-metropolitan area. Highest is 105. This is Maine. So you can see the bottom is at 63,520, which sounds very consistent with what what Ms. Olson shared in terms of 2 years out. I think you had a 2 years out in Maine or nationally, like it was 78,000, something like that. And then 102 for the average and 130. This is the nation, 60,690. So a good difference between Northern Maine and the nation, and even the state, and the average in 164. So I'll stop sharing there. But I found that through ONET Online, and which is the Federal Department of Labor site, ONET. If you Google that, you can get there. Just throw the occupation in there, and in their search. Yeah.
That's very helpful.
Senator-
Thank you,
Senator Curry?
so much.
Sorry.
Yes, and we did a little exception. These were questions for Rachel, and I was trying to answer, but I'm happy to represent Bernard.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure on that last slide. I don't know what 04740 is. That's not Presque Isle. Presque Isle is
Oh, that's not.
04769. I don't know what 40 is.
I did a quick check, but it gave us the northern Maine, northeast Maine non-metropolitan area. So I think they don't have data specific for that zip code. I'll have to look up what that zip code is for. But I think they just combine it rather than saying Southern Maine or Southern, but I'll double check that.
Okay, if you wanted to try Presque Isle, just because that does represent a lot of Northern Maine, that is 04769.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if
I'll
that'll help.
jump in. It's Easton. I just looked it up. Sorry.
Thank you. Same chart. It's still referencing the northeastern Maine non-metropolitan area. So it's pulling the same data. Thank you for that correction.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes, and we're still on questions for Ms. Olson. Chair recognizes, I think next was Representative Geiger. No, we'll go to.
I believe
Representative
Representative
Hassenfuss.
Hassenfuss was next.
Okay. Representative Hepsibus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Olson, just a sort of a procedural kind of question. Would it be possible for you to just copy and paste the current draft that we're working through on your bill analysis? Because I often find myself reading the bill analysis and then going back to the bill and trying to then bounce back and forth. So if that's helpful.
Yes, sorry, can you just tell me, which thing would you like me to put in the chat?
Just, no, not in the chat, but just in your bill analysis that you give us, just have actual text of the statute at the bottom or something so that we can find it all in one document there.
Yes, I apologize. I usually do that and I see that I did not do that here.
And then just my question for you is it basically, and looking at the statute in your bill analysis, it's we're essentially taking the current statute, just adding rural and underserved areas and expanding the amount of the loan, both in how much it is and how many recipients get it, right? And there's really no other changes.
That is correct.
Chair recognizes Representative Geiger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The other changes that we're changing it from 2 who are large animal vets to 10, 4 of which must be large animals, 6 can be others. So that's a major change.
In the amendment, which we technically haven't taken up yet.
Trying
Thank
to get
you.
to
Good point.
Sorry,
Representative
yeah.
Fay. As soon as questions are done, we'll move to Representative Fay.
I don't know if this is a question to be answered by Ms. Olson, Representative Fay, or Mr. Norbert, but I just wanted to make sure I'm clear. So we don't have any vet schools in Maine, so this will be students in other vet schools. And when you said it was a loan program, does that mean that they need to know they're coming to Maine before they take out the loan? So they're taking loans out from FAME, or is this a student who has taken other loans out, but in their senior year sees this program and is willing to locate to Maine, and then FAME has a way of paying off theirs and switching it to the state of Maine? Or do you need to know 3 years ahead of time that you are willing to come to Maine and you're going to take out this loan?
I feel confident that I can answer this, but Bill will correct me if I'm wrong. So the program, you currently need to be a Maine resident. So while you're not going to school here, you are from here. And so I guess, yes, you would need to know that you were coming back to work in Maine in order to be awarded the loan, the potential forgivable loan. I don't think you have to get it every 4 years. So I would, Mr. Norwood, who runs the program or who is familiar with the program, excuse me, could probably correct me, but you could find out about it, in your second or third year of school and apply. I don't think there's a requirement that you have to apply for the first time in your first year or before you start your first year.
But the longer you wait, the less money you can be forgiven. So
that you would be loaned and then could eventually be forgiven. Yes, because it's currently capped at 25,000 for a total of 4 years. So each year that school is 4 years. So for each year. So I think if you only found out about it in your third year, you would only be able to get potentially get a loan for your third year and a loan for your fourth year.
right. Thank you.
Chair, I recognize that Senator Searway has joined us. Senator Searway, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Good morning. I'm Senator Scott Searway and represent District 16, which includes Waterville, Winslow, Fairfield, Benton, Albion, Clinton, and Unity Township.
Excellent. Welcome. And Chair recognizes Representative Ducharme.
Thank you, Chair Curry. First off, happy birthday, Senator Searway.
Thank you.
I believe my question is probably for Mr. Norbert, and I see that he's joined us. So Um, Editorially, we have these continuous discussions about student loan debt outstripping the earning potential of the professions that they're going into. But we have no discussions about the rising cost of education. With that said, is this a revolving fund? And if so, are the payments returned to the fund? Can you tell me a little bit about how that works, Mr. Norbert, please?
So we'll let this one question to Mr. Norbert, and then I do want to move over to next up to have Representative Fay introduce her amendment. So go ahead, Mr. Norbert, and then we'll move over to Representative Fay.
Sure. Good morning. Thank you, Senator Curry, and good morning, all. Representative Ducharme, it's a forgivable loan program, so not a whole lot revolves back unless you're naughty or unless you don't comply with the rules, in which case it converts to a repayable loan at 5%. So most of it is forgiven. As you saw, most folks go through the program and comply and have their debt forgiven. So we do have to keep taking money from our appropriation and replenishing the program each year. It's different from the typical business revolving loan program. I hope that helps.
It does, but I'll have a follow-up when it's time.
Sure.
Thank you. And at this point, I'd like to recognize the bill sponsor. And I understand, Representative Fay, you have an amendment also you wish to speak to.
Thank you, Senator Curry. And I love all the questions, and thanks to Ms. Olson for her really thorough analysis. It was actually really super helpful for me too. So the amendment, based on, I think, some of the conversation and suggestions that we heard at the public hearing, basically takes, since we're expanding the program currently, which is only open to a total of 2 participants per year for large animal veterinarians in underserved areas, and we want to expand it to 10. What I heard was there was some appetite for making sure that we didn't not include specific slots for large animal veterinarians. So the amendment it basically keeps everything the same as the bill, except that it segregates 4 of the newly created slots, well, 2 of the newly created slots for large animal veterinarians. So out of 10 total slots, there would be 4 for large animal vets. And then the 6 would be the emergency or critical care service vets in underserved areas. So everything is the same for the bill, except that 4 of 10 slots would go to large animal vets.
Are there questions for Representative Fay? Chair recognizes Representative Geiger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Fay, I'm just curious, is there any particular reason we're focusing the other 6 on emergency services only instead of just all veterinarians who are willing to move to an underserved area? Given the testimony that we heard from our own members, it sounds like there is not a single vet in all of Aroostook County that will take new patients. So I just wondered if we were being unnecessarily narrow in just focusing on critical care vets.
So I think that's a great question, Representative Geiger, and I want to be respectful and careful around the committee process. I think if that's a direction that the committee wanted to go in, certainly it would be helpful. I do notice that Ms. Olson has her hand up. We did have I did have a brief discussion about those definitions in the bill. And I think the impact of how the Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry defined emergency and critical care veterinary care could include folks who might be practicing in rural areas who were doing both regular small animal day-to-day practice and critical care. But I think it would be in rulemaking and in the definitions, and Rachel will tell me if I've summarized that correctly.
So it may actually encourage veterinarians setting up practice to create an emergency and take turns, an emergency clinic, staffing it in order to get that kind of loan repayment.
That's my understanding, and I think that could be I think a side, like sort of a side benefit, or unintended / intended consequence of that particular language.
Thank you.
Ms. Olson, you wanted to add to this?
I do, just to, because I think that there's a slight misunderstanding. So in the bill, can I put it on the screen? That'd be okay with everybody? Okay.
Go ahead.
This is not, I mean, the amendment makes an addition, so this is all still applicable in consideration of the amendment as well. But as it stands, currently there's a definition for insufficient veterinary services, which currently only includes livestock. And as I believe from the testimony, we heard the area for insufficient veterinary services, which means an insufficient number of practitioners of veterinary medicine in the specialty area of livestock, is in fact the entire state of Maine currently. We're adding now for them insufficient veterinary services could be an area where there aren't enough livestock veterinarians, but it could also be an area that don't have enough emergency and critical care veterinarians. Those could be the same, those could be different, they could overlap. But we'd be essentially looking at two criteria to determine insufficient veterinary services. And that is together, that is one element that you could meet to get loan forgiveness. Or the addition is now, or you could work in an underserved geographic region. So you could be a cat vet, but working in Caribou. And that could qualify because that might be, I would imagine, considered an underserved geographic region. So the bill really opens it up. The groups that potentially could be excluded might be rather small. We're talking our very metropolitan areas that deal with small animals might be the only one. So, but again, this is up to the commissioner to determine based off of criteria. They did have some information in their testimony that while they can do it, they will bring in information around from the animal welfare program as well. But I just wanted to make that note. So it's not just critical care. There's the underserved geographic region component as well, which.
Ms. Olson, thank you so much.
Yeah, okay.
I had underserved be a subset of insufficient veterinary service. So that makes it very clear.
Yeah, okay, great. And I just to note, underserved geographic region is really, in Maine, that's probably referring to rural, although you could make an argument that our entire state is rural. So that we have a tendency not to use the term rural in statute because it's harder to define unless you are going to outline that in the language.
Correct, Mrs. Senator Searway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question on clarity. I remember Samantha speaking, I believe it was her, and saying that the university has a program that they have not had any issues as far as cost-wise. In fact, their program's basically all paid when they get done. So I was just wondering how this kind of relates to that, when we go and put out this kind of money for forgiveness for this, and when you have a program that's kind of like self-sufficient. And also, I still have this belief that we don't just throw all the money in like that. I'm kind of wondering if there's more problems, and I guess I could ask Mr. Norbert about this, as far as when it comes to I guess this would be the question I'd like to ask Mr. Norbert is, when it comes to funding something like this, is it just the college costs that's the problem? Because I think I understood Mr. Norbert to say they have not had too many difficulties in having their colleges paid for. And so I'm wondering if there wouldn't be more use of the funds to go towards a startup for a business, type situation where, when you've got to buy a building and you got to get all the equipment and the vehicles and whatever for large animals to have available with you. I'm just kind of wondering if that would not be more of an incentive if there isn't a problem with the finance. And so that's what I would like to suggest to have looked at before we go and make a decision of just paying out for a college fund.
Chair,
May I answer the first part of that?
go ahead, Ms. Olson,
Thank
then
you.
we'll move over to Mr. Norbert.
Sure. His first question had to do with information that Sam Warren shared with us from the UMaine system. The program that you were referring to, Senator Searway, that is largely able to be provided at low or no cost to students is a veterinary technician program. So these are not licensed veterinarians, these are vet techs.
Yeah.
And while they provide necessary services, and we heard in testimony that that is a group that works in this industry that could also use some support, that's not currently what the bill is addressing. So those students are not the students that this bill is speaking to. She did mention that there is a very successful program at UMaine that's at the large animal program at UMaine, where many of those students indicate that they're pre-vet. Not all pre-vet students will go on to veterinary school for a variety of reasons. Although she noted that the people who are responsible for running that program have said that many reasons that students don't go on to vet school has to do with the cost of vet school. And then additionally, although I will let Mr. Norbert speak to this as well, many veterinarians are interested in purchasing their own clinic. That's one way to increase their salaries. And I believe that we heard in testimony that one of the most significant obstacles for them to be able to purchase their own clinic is that it takes so long for them to retire their student loan debt. Most veterinarians are employed by private companies. Certainly, there are a few who are employed by the state or the federal government, but most are employed by private firms. Most of them are small family practices within our local communities. And as a result, they're not eligible for public service loan forgiveness. So they can enter into income driven repayment plans that offer forgiveness after 20 or 25 years, depending on the program. But the loan amount that they're forgiven is taxable. And that is a significant burden. So even if they enter into that program, they're looking at a very hefty tax bill when that loan is forgiven. And that would be after 20 or 25 years of making eligible payments under those programs. So we heard some of that just as an obstacle to going into owning their own practice is first retiring the amount of student debt that they carry.
Mr. Norbert?
Good morning again. Well, Ms. Olson did a better job than I'll do. She did a great job. I agree. Happy birthday, Senator Searway.
Thank you.
So I don't know what's left over for me to address, but I would just agree. I mean, I think there is a really important need for these type of carrot and stick loan forgiveness programs. We help them finance their veterinary school medicine education, which can be expensive. But then in return, we offer them the carrot to come back home and help us in the areas where we have need, and we'll help repay part of your debt over several years, 4 years. So, and we've heard from the department that it's worked well. Our statistics seem to show that it's worked well. We're getting people to do what they said they would do. Is that helpful or?
That is, now, what would this amount to as far as the total forgiveness compared to the total cost of their education?
Well, it depends where they went, and we did hear statistics about, I think Ms. Olson cited, like they could graduate after 4 years with like greater than 125 or 50,000 worth of debt. So this is 25 grand over 4 years. That's 100,000 there to be forgiven. But you're going to increase it with this bill to 50 grand per year over 4 years. So that's going to be what, 200 grand in return for the service. Many folks, I think Ms. Olson did cite statistics that can range higher than that for debt. I'm not an expert on what that is, but I bet Ms. Olson knows. We did list in our report back where the schools that a lot of these folks are going to. They're very fine schools. You can see Tufts and Cornell and up in Prince Edward Island. So yeah, I hope that helps.
Yep.
Ms. Olson, can you
yep.
share the student loan debt again? The
Yep,
average
so-
student loan debt across the nation?
Yep, the average student loan debt for a student who is receiving their Doctor of Veterinary Medicine was just over $183,000, and that's just the medical school debt, not undergrad. Of course, this is only applicable to their loans for DVM, for their training to get their DVM. And as Mr. Norbert pointed out, these students are traditionally going to, I think it was Cornell, Penn State, the Atlantic College of Veterinary Medicine, and the other one that he said, Tufts, the closer one. So all top schools, and I think you're looking at tuitions or payments that are about 80,000 or more, plus additional costs per year.
Senator Searway, one of the things I would also share, did you have a follow-up?
Nope, I'm good.
Great.
What was you gonna say?
I was just going to share one of the things that when I look at the salary ranges for veterinarians, I think what we would get to is somewhere the advice that is regularly given to students for the amount of loan debt to take versus the salary that they're going to achieve. For these salaries, it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 75,000. And in terms of beyond which the kind of the standard formulas, actually, I'll ask Mr. Norbert this question because the calculator I use is from Payne in terms of the iGrad loan affordability or student loan affordability calculator. The advice that, although there's big warnings that say this is not financial advice, it's like the industry standard is not to walk out with more than 10% of your take home or 10% of your salary towards student loan debt. And so with looking at our salaries, it appears to be somewhere in the, don't walk out of, between $65,000 and $75,000 in debt, which these numbers look like they're all crazy, in terms of why would someone be taking a position at $51,000 with $183,000 in debt. I botched a question there. There's not really a question in that. This isn't a public hearing. So if you wanted to respond to it, go ahead.
Well said.
All right, great. Thank you. Are there other comments? I'm noticing that there are a number of members not here. And I want to know, is there more information that we would like? Is there, and I guess I'll, Senator Searway, is there a, tip? Often when we're done with questions, we can either work it we could, we'll go into caucus if we think that that would be helpful. I'm just curious as to a process question is how to best proceed. If people know where they are on a vote, then we can proceed in that direction. What is the will of the committee? I guess I'm trying to get a flavor of the will of the committee.
I'd like to caucus with my group for, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then we can come back with whatever we think, if you'd like.
Can we get some questions out there or some thoughts so we can get a sense of the will of the committee or will of
Yeah.
this committee before we go into caucus?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. One question I'd like, if you can, if you wouldn't mind,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just how does, as far as Mr. Norbert, if you could let us know what kind of programs have been successful. I just like to see a little competing programs on college. I mean, like I said, my experience when I was in college, the ones that had all the money given to them, they didn't work as hard as the ones that really appreciated and worked hard for it. And if we give it all, then are we really helping them, So I just wanted to see what really works, because I'm sure through the years, you've seen what programs have worked and what hasn't worked as well in success rate. I just think there's got to be a happy medium somewhere. And I just don't want to just end up paying for the whole college and then saying, geez, we really didn't do them justice because it was just thrown at them and they didn't appreciate it or whatever. But I always earned what I worked for, and I just don't, and I understand we're trying to help them get more incentive, but is it really an incentive when you're paying the whole thing? It's not really. That's beyond an incentive, I think. So I'm just kind of concerned about that.
Mr. Norbert, did you want to respond to that?
I don't really know how to research that question. I want to satisfy you, but I'm not sure I'll be able to, frankly.
Yeah.
I think it's an opinion or a policy question, whether to have some skin in the game and forgive less or to forgive a higher amount. You can set that, but we have found the programs you've all given us over the years for loan repayment, loan forgiveness for healthcare professions, including this one, have been successful in meeting your desire to attract workforce to the underserved areas of the state. So I wouldn't know what to tell you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're kind of shifting from questions into to the discussion. So let's.
It's just a question. I didn't know if you had any information on that. That's all.
I'm going to recognize Representative Fay to see if you wanted to address that, and then we'll shift more to committee discussion. So go ahead, Representative Fay.
Thanks. Thank you, Senator Curry. And Senator Searway, I really appreciate the way that you're thinking about this. And I promise I will not sing happy birthday to you. You really don't want that, trust me. So what I think is we've got parts of the state where we've heard from our constituents and farmers and others that they don't have access to veterinary care. And so my concern is how do we incentivize people graduating from veterinary school to work in those areas that are underserved? And if you can't earn enough money to pay back the loan and you have options of settling in other parts of the state or other parts of the country to earn enough money to pay back those loans, then we've set up kind of a negative feedback loop. Every veterinarian, and I think we heard this in the public hearing, every veterinarian I know and the ones that came to talk to us are working really super hard, right? Like they have similar experiences, I think, right now to those who are working in the human healthcare field. It's very difficult to get veterinary appointments, and and I think you have some experience with the large animal piece. I mean, I have friends who are farmers who have a very difficult time finding someone to come in and look after their large animals. So I appreciate the concern about, you know, whether this disincentivizes people from working. I actually think it does the opposite, really. It really incentivizes people to work, you know, harder, because if you're going to take a job in an underserved area, I think by definition, you're going to have more work to do. So that's what I would say about that. And then the other thing that I would love to work with you on is figuring out how to help veterinary practices start up in underserved areas. So I think that's a separate issue from this bill. But that's something that I would love to work on, because I know it's pretty hard to start up a business. And if there's ways that you know, the Department of Agriculture or this committee or the legislature in, you know, public-private partnership can help people start up practices in underserved areas that don't already exist, I would love to work on that with you. But I do think it's separate than this, because you can't start up a practice if you can't afford to go to school.
Right.
And yeah, and so the other one thing I would say is, from the research that I've done, the total cost of veterinary school is between $300,000 and $400,000. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. So this program wouldn't, I think, come close to covering all of those costs.
So just clarity, I just wanted to think maybe, you know, it's kind of like there's a lot of times when people raise funds, they get 50% of it, then somebody matches it, that sort of thing. And I'm just kind of thinking of it on that scale. And also you know, like I used to be involved in large animals, and when I was starting the business, they actually wanted me to go to Burlington, Vermont, but I would have had to buy everything to get into that business and start up on my own. And whereas the other company supplied everything and also paid my car allowance, stuff like that. And it made a good decision for me. But I just was looking at the startup part because of that experience I went through. And I understand it's not always just the education piece, it's the other piece for like, if you got a family and trying to get going, you know, so.
Thank you, Senator. Are there other questions for either Mr. Norbert or for Representative Fay? If not, we will, if you could lower your hands for a second, if anyone has a question for either of them. Representative Austin, you have a question for either Mr. Norbert or Representative Fay?
Well, I have a question, and I think that either could help, but the one thing I heard Rachel say was not the reticence on using the word rural. And so I just throw this out there as we move forward into however the motion comes within the amendment. And that is to give that attention to however we can, under what description, and that's that northern part of our state, which is hurting so much, not just in large, but in total animal care. So that's one comment to whoever can address that. The second one to Representative Fay's response to Senator Seaway, she's kind of made me flip this situation philosophically and think about the preponderance of why we have gotten to be a state with traditionally having such a dependence on farming and animals, to find ourselves in the condition of not having any caretakers. I mean, I think there's really there's a real message in that. And so I appreciate her answer to Senator Seaway. Not exactly sure how we can carve that to do exactly as we should, but I do appreciate that, because that was a poking carrot to the thinking. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Representative Fay.
Representative Fay, would you like to take take the opportunity to respond to that?
I feel like I have to take Representative Austin some carrots now. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I have.
Carrot cake from Casco
Maybe
will do.
carrot cake.
Okay. At this point, what I'd request is, with no other questions for either Mr. Norbert or for Representative Fay, we'll shift them back into the attendee list, and we'll continue on with discussion. So, thank you very much for being here. And Chair recognizes Representative Hassenfuss.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Searwood, two of your points, actually. One is that in order to start a vet business in Maine, you have to be a vet. So the prerequisite to that is the education. And so helping with that education cost, helping to reduce that debt load opens up liquidity and some income so that can be used to mortgage a practice. So by helping to pay down student debt, we're also helping to open up a business in the future if that's what they choose to do. And I know in other health professions that that has taken that same trajectory. Additionally, anybody who is taking this loan program, they're only getting money from the state if they give back to the state. So they're taking the loan actually, and if they go move to California, then they need to pay that loan based on the interest terms in the note that FAME provides. However, if they come back to Maine, serve in an area where we need vets, whether it be large animal vets or geographic, the geographic spot in the state, then FAME will say for every year work, we forgive X amount of dollars. That X amount is up to us to decide. And so therefore it is those who are willing to put in the time, the effort, and the hard work are the ones who are going to be getting the benefit from the state. Furthermore, I think we don't offer in-state tuition for vets because we don't have any in-state schools. And the cost of setting up an in-state vet program would be extremely high, would be much more than the rest of this bill. And I feel that in fairness to Maine students who are highly competitive, have done extremely well in undergrad, I think in fairness to them, we should offer some sort of in-state tuition-esque program, especially when they say, I love Maine, I want to come back to Maine, and I want to help my community. And we've seen that this program works in other professions, whether it be dentistry or medicine or things like that, other health professions, it's worked. And so everything is set up for it to be successful. And the final aspect of it is that these are communities that need vets. So in addition to helping that student, we're also helping people in the state of Maine who are, need vets, whether because their dog's stomach is twisted or because they're, a rancher and, they need vets to treat their cattle and to do the birthing process, that sort of thing. So it's going to help Maine communities in large part, and it's going to help Maine students. So it's really a benefit to both, both our constituents who have pets as well as to our constituents or people who want to go into vet school. And I feel like if you are talented enough and hardworking enough to do well in undergrad and be able to get into a vet school, the state should offer some sort of in-state tuition-esque program. And I think that's what this does, and it opens it up to benefit both the communities that need it and students that want it. And that's why, in general terms, I'm in favor of this bill, and I think it's something that we should work hard to see if we can make this work.
Thank you, Representative Hasselfuss. Chair recognizes Representative Geiger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm looking at this in a completely different way. I am not thinking as much about the students as I am thinking about this as a program to get Maine what it needs. What we have heard is we do not have a vet school, that we have heard from the university that creating a veterinary school is a cost beyond what Maine could absorb. What we have heard from both our own members and testimony is that there are no vets in Northern Maine who are currently taking patients. There are no vets for emergency services in much of the western and northern states. So I think the question is, what do we need to do to get the professionals' main needs to remain a viable state and to have viable communities? And to me, we don't have a vet school. We already know Maine students take on a huge debt load just getting their undergraduate. We don't have a veterinary school, so therefore they are going to go outside the state and they are going to pay full tuition in another state. They have already gotten into vet school. If we don't do this, then they will not return home. We will not have veterinarians. They will go to states where they can make more money to be able to afford to pay off their debt loan. So it seems to me this is not about giving a freebie to some kid. This is about Maine needing veterinarians and other professionals, and what do we need to do to get them back? And the program is focused on Maine students, getting Maine students to come back to our state. We all know Maine is the oldest state in the nation and getting older every minute because we are not bringing our kids back after college. So I think that's really the choice. It's not about, are we giving somebody something who doesn't deserve it? It's about, what do we need to do to get the professionals into Maine that we require to have viable communities?
Sorry about that interruption. Representative Geiger, do you want to continue?
I would just say, I think it's really important in terms of appropriations that this be a bipartisan bill. I live on the Gold Coast. We have veterinarians. But I think it would be a real lost opportunity. So I would hope that we could figure out, if we don't want to give 50,000 per student, if we don't want to give this to 10 students a year, what do we want in terms of what Maine needs? Let's figure it out. And I support the bill as it is, but I'll support it if we need to go down in order for this to be a bipartisan bill.
Like to hear from, Representative Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This will be a very quick thought and question for Mr. Norbert. I was just thinking as I was listening to Representative Geiger, if we have a Maine student that goes off to, let's just say, Cornell or one of the other colleges and universities that have the veterinary program, is there a, I remember years ago, pharmaceutical education, we had that, what do I want to call it, interaction with the other colleges, that if our college didn't have it, our university, then there was like a reciprocity to take them or have some financial support for them. And how am I remembering that? Is that still in existence, or help us out?
Mr. Norbert.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, no, Representative Austin, I think what you're remembering is the Maine State Grant Program, which is an entirely different program.
Okay.
You have a reciprocal agreement, and and the legislature changed that. That was for only certain states, mostly New England. And the legislature changed that and wanted to focus the main state grant monies just on main institutions, whether they be public or private. So I think that's what you're referring to, the reciprocity. But this program does not. It's folks have to come back here, practice, or it converts into a repayment loan.
All right, thank you.
You're
I had a blast from the past. Thank you.
Thank you. It seems that from my sense of our discussion, there is some openness to considering the number, the definitions of the number of positions and the amount per, and the desire expressed from Representative Geiger to find the strongest possible vote to put forward to negotiate on those items. Senator Searway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been thinking about this, and I know many colleges. I know when I applied in college, and my daughters, and sons, when they applied, that a lot of colleges have incentives, and so they tend to give them some money breaks during when they go for college at a certain colleges. And it gets competitive somewhat. And so I think that if we could go, instead of half, 1/3, approximately, maybe 30,000 a year would sound fair, because that way the incentives would take place. They may have a little ownership, like 1/3, and then 1/3 from us, I think would be somewhat appropriate. I'm just thinking out loud here, but I just think that you got to have some skin in the game. And then also, I thought that, on numbers, I think, 4 for the large animals. I think that, certainly that is a challenge in long distance and time, getting to places, and it does take time on the farms or whatever. And then maybe 4 for the critical, if it's small animals or whatever. I think that would be fair. So I'm just putting that out there to see what everybody else's thoughts was.
Appreciate that, Senator Searway. We're trying to get the pulse of the committee and get a sense of where folks are. Representative Ducharme.
Thank you, Chair Curry. One of the questions that I had, in looking at the information that Mr. Norbert provided, it looks to me like the average forgiveness over the last 5 years has been slightly under $20,000 per student loan forgiven or whatever. I'm still concerned about the fact that since 2012, there's been $1.5 million put into this program and $428,000 forgiven. I still like to know where the other $1 million is. Is that outstanding in student loans that either are being repaid or somewhere? Those are kind of questions that I have. And also, I'm concerned about the whole definition of insufficient veterinary services, and how do we make sure that these things end up, the folks end up in the rural areas. Because as we know, or as I know, a lot of the younger folks coming into Maine, they want to be close to the metropolitan areas, and we've seen that the metropolitan areas have adequate service, and it's out in the country where when you look up at night you can see thousands of stars, is where we need these people to come to. And so I don't know how we fix that with this program, but by the same token, I think that's something that we need to be considering.
Was that a question for Mr. Norbert as well?
if he has an answer for me on that one, I just like to know where the other
Related to
$1 million
that.
is.
That's a great question. Thank you. Mr. Norbert?
Yes, hello. I believe it is the money is still tied up with folks who are still in school, Representative. So keep in mind, we keep having 2 new people get their money at the beginning of their 4 years of education. So, you know, it's a process, obviously, after 4 years, then we have people come out and do return service. So I think that's the explanation for your question. Not everyone has completed. It's an ongoing revolving door, really, of a program.
Just to follow up, if I may,
Please.
do you have any data on how much actual cash has been repaid versus how much has been forgiven?
Yes, I think it's here. So I've shown you the forgiveness given over each fiscal year, how much has been dispersed each fiscal year. And you were right, you know, loans don't have to be paid at $25,000, it's up to $25,000. So some folks have taken out loans that are less. So we're able to repay less than $25,000 per year. Is that helpful?
Yes, I
Can
just
I-
wondered if there's a number that, you know, that you have that since 2012, we've gotten this many dollars back, we've forgiven this many dollars, because it looks to me like, based on the chart that you provided, we've given out $1.5 million and we've forgiven 400,000. So there's a delta of $1 million there that we just don't, you know, I get that some of that is still out there, but since 2012, I mean, that's, you know, that's almost 10 years ago. Some of these should have either been paid off, or my assumption is that the ones that we're forgiving now are the ones that we're giving up, were the loans that were given out in 2012, 13, and 14. And I just need to confirm that.
Yeah, I can't get you that total. And I do want to tell you, many people, most, I believe, have paid off, you know, have completed they've had their loans paid off and they've completed the service of 4 years. But then there's new people each year too. So hope that's helpful. But I can total this and get back to you. Since 2012, we've given out X and forgiven Y. I can do that.
Ms. Olson,
Sorry,
Thank
I just wanted to also note, and I don't know if it's actually occurring, but the bill does allow for a prorated forgiveness if you're not working full time, but you're working half, less than 50%. I don't know, something like that, prorated. So the individual might be working in a practice that provides large animal veterinary services like 50% of the time or 30% of the time. So they're still eligible, but they're receiving prorated forgiveness. And I think that would mean that the length of time that they get loan forgiveness is longer than 4 years. Bill, did I get that right?
You're definitely right about the prorated forgiveness option. 12.5% is offered to folks who, you know, do what you just said, provide less than 20 hours per week, but not less than 10 hours per week. So there's a lot of 12.5% forgiveness going on. As far as the time to pay it back, I'm not positive about that, whether that changes, but I would think it would if you're prorating it. I could find out.
Chair recognizes Representative Roberts. Chair Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just in my little calculator here doing math and whatnot. I appreciate Senator Searway kind of jumping in and giving us a starting point and recognizing the need. So just to kind of think out loud, we've had this program for over 10 years, and the forgiveness, the loan amount has remained the same at $25,000. Tuition, on the other hand, I think we all know has increased exponentially in the past 10 years. So while 30 is still an increase, I think that 8 is reasonable. I think 35 would be even better. Gives us 10 grand more. Stick with the 8 slots like Senator Searway recommended the 4 and 4. And if we look at what's already currently appropriated, someone can check my math here, but we would only need 80,000 a year since 200,000 is already appropriated to the program. If we did 35 and 8 slots. That sound right? I just feel like we need to bump up a little more than 5,000 a year when in 10 years we haven't touched it. And I mean, I've been going back to school personally for the past 8 years, and my tuition rate this year it is about 8,000 more than last year. So, and that's just for a business degree. So just throwing some more numbers out there to play with.
So I'm gonna propose, I think what I'm wondering about is process for this committee. We've had a couple numbers, we've had a couple people chime in on that. Would it make sense for this committee to table? And given I'm also paying a lot of attention that 6 of us are not here. In an effort to try to have that, so table, and in the meantime, caucuses meet to see where in general we stand, bring it back to try to get to the strongest possible vote that we can get on this. I just don't see how we get to that, recognizing that 6 of us are not here. Am I right on 6?
No, I agree.
Yeah. And I think we can put it, it doesn't have to go long. We could put it on we could put it on next week. I don't think there's any timeline in terms of needing there's not a bunch of research that needs to happen in the meantime. It's really having a discussion to figure out where these other 6 members are on this, rather than them just getting a vote up or down. That would be my proposed. If someone has a better idea of how to move forward, I'm open to it. Chair recognizes Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to table LD 1885.
Okay.
Second. All those in favor of tabling? We will table LD 1885, and Mr. Norbert and Representative Fay, thank you so much for joining us today and bringing this important matter before us. I'd like to take I've had a request for can we do a 10-minute break? And then we'll come back at, I have 11:18. So we'll come back at 11:18. So we'll take a 10-minute break and go into our next bill. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Give folks a moment to turn on their screens.
Senator Curry,
Yes.
it'll be just probably another 5 minutes because we're gonna kind of we trying to get a conference call together, but we don't have Sue to help us, so we're trying to figure it out. All right,
And that's fine if we need 5 more minutes. I mean, we've tabled, so we're not going to come back to 1885 today.
right, yeah,
Right. Okay.
all right,
So we'll come back in 5 more minutes. So
Okay,
that's
thank you.
11:26.
yeah.
welcome back, everybody. Senator Searway, are you in good shape?
Yeah, we didn't really get a chance to get all of us together, but well, we'll figure it out.
If after we get into this, you'll need to do a caucus, then just let me know.
Yeah.
Great. And we're going to get started here. I'm going to ask we will open the work session on LD 1896 and an act to allow heating fuel and motor vehicle fuel customers to opt out of paper delivery tickets. And Ms. Olson, would you like to walk us through your committee analysis, analysis or bill summary?
Yes. This is LD 1896, an act to allow heating fuel and motor vehicle fuel customers to opt out of paper delivery tickets. This bill requires vendors of bulk deliveries of liquid fuel sold for heating residential, industrial, or commercial space, or water or motor vehicle fuel. No, sorry, I read that weird. To provide to a purchaser a delivery ticket by email upon the request of the purchaser. It also makes a technical correction to the law governing bulk sales. I'm going to skip the technical issue for a second just to go to the information. Although I was not able to find evidence to suggest that this was not correct, but I did just receive a note that this is perhaps not true. The only law I could find that in New England that allowed for electronic tickets was the recently passed piece of legislation in Connecticut that amended their law to allow for electronic delivery tickets. I looked at New Hampshire, Vermont, and Massachusetts statutes, and it seemed to imply that you could not by using language that was very similar to Connecticut's previous law requiring essentially ink delivery. Ms. Diver sent a message to me to indicate that's perhaps not true. So if she might have more information regarding that, then I was able to identify. The only thing I have really to note is really the technical side of things. And this was indicated in the testimony. So our current law uses just the term delivery ticket. It doesn't specify the form that such a delivery ticket must take. In fact, the other laws that I looked at are more prescriptive in a way that makes it very clear that they mean like a written ink document. Whereas ours just uses the term delivery ticket. The law was written in 1973. It's only been amended once in 2001, and that was to address the temperature adjusted delivery methods. And so the interpretation of delivery ticket to mean a paper ticket is probably reasonable, particularly given other states' very similar legislation, as well as the fact that the law was written in 1973. But it is based on interpretation. As a straight read, delivery ticket in and of itself doesn't require that delivery ticket have to be written. So it's only a technical note. It is not a substantive note in any way, but there may be an issue around the phrase except as otherwise provided. And so I'll just, here's the law as it's currently written. So whenever the quantity is determined by a seller, bulk sales in excess of $20 and all bulk deliveries of heating fuel shall be accompanied by a delivery ticket containing the following information. Nothing in that reading straight seems to indicate that it has to be a paper ticket, but the interpretation is, so I think that there's a strong argument that it needs to be clarified in statute. Should the committee like to make available the option for customers to request an email instead of a paper ticket? So in the, of course, nope, hold on. I have to, my screen sharing box is in the way of me accessing the document I want. Here we go. So here's the law, proposed bill. So if you look at the phrase except as otherwise provided in this section, if you don't interpret delivery ticket to mean paper, then it's confusing about sort of what is otherwise being said. Like, is it saying you don't need to leave a delivery ticket at all? The except as otherwise provided is this opt-out or opt-in, excuse me, the opt-in provision. And so, you know, technically we could add the term paper to clarify that the standard way was a paper ticket and you can request instead an email. Or I think potentially we could just lose except as otherwise provided in the section, but that would be just technical and not substantive. And I'll just note these changes about must and those are in fact just technical changes. Apparently this line just didn't have an and it should have, and then it's just updating the law because this was written in 1973. We have changed the way that certain things are written into statute language wise. So I'll stop sharing. And as I noted, I was not able to find information that suggested other states are allowed to do email tickets, but Ms. Diver has a different set of information on that, and she is the expert in the field. So. And I believe she's I'm not sure she's present though to respond.
Not seeing her in the attendee list. So thank you, Ms. Olson. And can you clarify one question I have is, if we were to pass this law, could a company say, well, we only do electronic tickets, so we only do email tickets, and so you could have you could sign up for that or go to a different company?
No, my reading of this, and it says, I'm actually going to put it on the screen again, so we're all looking at it. So the language here is if a purchaser requests that a vendor provide to the purchaser a delivery ticket for bulk delivery by email, the vendor shall provide the delivery ticket by email, and the bulk delivery need not be accompanied by a paper delivery ticket. So this, if a purchaser request, means that the request has to come or be initiated by the purchaser or the customer in this case. So a company could not say we're only giving out email tickets, that you would need to opt in to email and therefore opt out of paper. And nothing else about the delivery ticket changes. The delivery ticket still has to have the same information that is currently in statute. Name and address, date, quantity, identity, and count.
So just to be clear, all companies would be required to produce a paper delivery ticket. Let's assume the technical question at the top, if we added the word paper, for example, they would continue to be required to produce a paper delivery ticket unless the customer requested an electronic ticket only, email ticket.
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. If you could stop sharing, I'm having a screen issue
Yeah.
where I
Yeah,
miss
that's
that. And thank you. And slowly getting to hands. I see Senator Seaway. Senator Seaway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see there are some people that just like emails, but I also, the big concern I have is I've seen people, well, actually I experienced it where one lumber company dropped off insulation at my house and it was supposed to be at some other place. And I think it's important on the paper tickets when they do stuff like this. And the same thing with oil. It's very expensive. And there's people that need it. And if it gets delivered to the wrong place, if it's just done by email, it doesn't show that it was actually delivered at that spot. And the person that gets the ticket says, "Hey, I didn't order this," and then says you got the wrong address or number, and it's on the ticket. I think that that's where it's going to be important. So it may not, and I think that's the reason why everybody still gets their ticket. But I don't know if that's something we really have to look at before we make a big decision. I'd like to know if there's been issues and if that was the reason why they continued to keep the paper ticket.
Thank you, Senator. It might be that that question will come for a later person. I do see that we can bring in Ms. Diver in a moment, and she might be able to address the need side of the question.
And what's Ms. Diver's role?
Why don't we go ahead and bring Ms. Diver in?
She's the vice president of the, I think it's the Maine Energy Marketing Association, MEMA. She submitted testimony and spoke as well.
Yeah. I just wanted to know the facts on this.
Right. Welcome, Ms. Diver. Were you able to hear the question that Senator Searway had? Welcome, Ms. Diver.
Hi, thanks. So I just wanted to clarify something. Sorry, I just got the email to join.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. And so I just wanted to clarify, I think the analysis said that New Hampshire and Vermont do not allow email delivery tickets. They actually do. When I was working with Senator Daughtry on drafting this bill, I actually sent her New Hampshire's language. So Massachusetts would be the only New England state that actually doesn't allow for email delivery tickets.
Thank you. And Senator Searway had a question. I think you might have missed it or coming in during the question. Senator Searway, would you repeat your question, please?
Well, I've seen a couple deliveries go at the wrong place, including my own home with a lumber company, and also there was a delivery of oil one time, and it was just where they've had the paper ticket, you could tell where it was supposed to have gone, or where it should have gone, or where it should have been, but it was somebody filled in the wrong place. And so how does that work if you're just on email, and how would the person know where it was supposed to go? And because some people, if they got a delivery and they got their tank filled for free and the address is somewhere else and it's an email, they're not going to be able to track it. And that's what the problem with the paper, with the paper, you can track it because they're going to say, well, yeah, I gave the paper right to them. And you're going to see the name of the person and you're going to say, oh, it was misappropriated here. And the person's going to say, I can just call and tell them it was supposed to be over here, over there, or whatever. That's my concern, especially there's a lot of people that are even on emails, especially, senior citizens and whatever that go get these important deliveries in bad weather or whatever, where they're down on fuel and it gets misappropriated. I'm just worried about how this ticket thing works. And I don't know if you have any statistics on that.
Sure. I don't have any statistics. Perhaps other states do because Maine hasn't allowed it. So I'll answer the second part of your question first. And I think that I mentioned it in my testimony during the public hearing as well. So everyone will continue to receive a paper delivery ticket as they always have, unless they log into their online account with the company and request for an email delivery ticket. So it would be the same thing as probably your cell phone bill, your CMP bill. You automatically get the paper receipt or bill. And if you log into your account, you can then request email ticket only. And you could probably, a lot of companies will allow for both, an option for both. It's just an easier way for companies to be able to get in and out of a customer's driveway quicker. It's also, I think I mentioned also between COVID, a lot of companies and customers weren't leaving tickets because of the interaction and the handling of them, as well as a lot of seasonal Maine residents request that they don't leave a paper delivery ticket because over time they don't want them being left in their door frame, allowing people to know that they're not there. I think that if a customer was to incorrectly get a delivery of oil or not get their delivery of oil, I think the email and paper delivery ticket would work the same. I think that you can track the email ticket, it's left there. I think another argument is it's windy in Maine, it's winter, paper delivery tickets can blow around. So the email ticket is to ensure that they in fact get it, and then they can track it back if they receive the oil incorrect or oil or whatever fuel incorrectly, or if they didn't receive their fuel.
Can you explain your comment about some agencies will offer both and some don't? I don't quite get that. The paper.
It's all, so it would be dependent on the customer. If you want to receive an email ticket and a paper delivery ticket still, that's fine. Some companies already send the email. If your email address is in there, they're required to leave the delivery ticket, but they may also email you because their system, they want that record in their system.
So could we have it so that they would automatically have both and then they can opt out on either one? Is that a way we could do it?
I'm sure that we could. I think what I'll say is a lot of these newer trucks automatically email if the email address is in there. I don't think you can require that because some companies don't have their customers' emails yet because it hasn't been the practice. And to your point about someone who might be older, who doesn't really use a computer very much, if they don't have an email address and then you require it, it ends up being a problem.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, is there if I just follow up on that question?
Yes, go ahead.
So you're saying some agencies aren't equipped for it, but yet you're expecting the customer to be equipped for it in a sense, because if they can't get both and they're going to opt out on one or the other, that's kind of saying that the agency is not responsible, but the customer is going to be responsible.
No, all of the, I think, I'm sorry, I'll clarify. All of the liquid fuel industry businesses are equipped to email. I'm saying that they may not be able to email the recipient or the customer because they may not have their email address. So if you have someone who is older, who doesn't use a computer and hasn't given their email address, or even if they don't have an email address to the delivery person or the company, then they're unable to email them because they don't have that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have, before we move forward, does anyone else have questions for Ms. Diver? There are other questions. So right now, I'd just like to limit it to questions for Ms. Diver.
Thanks,
So
Senator.
Representative Ducharme.
Thank you, Chair Curry. I'm not sure if this is a question for Ms. Diver or not. She probably can answer it. Is this change in law simply to correct what appears to be the practice in that fuel companies believe that the law says they have to provide a paper ticket, so they can't allow someone like myself who has told my fuel company, do not leave my ticket in the door, just send it to me by email. I know that my fuel guy said, you know, that I can get fined up to $2,000 for not leaving you a delivery ticket. So that's not worth it. I'll just leave it there. And I don't really care, because when it comes in the house, I throw it away because I'm going to get it electronically. I think the intent of this seemed to me to be to provide the option for those of us who would like to opt out of a paper ticket to those fuel companies and say, you're not going to get fined as long as you have documentary evidence that Jack Ducharme has opted out of getting a paper delivery ticket. Is that accurate?
That's correct. If they do not leave a paper delivery ticket, they are able to be fined. In my testimony, it states it's not something that they follow up on a lot of the times, but it is in the law that they will be fined if they don't leave the paper delivery ticket.
Seeing no other questions, thank you, Ms. Diver.
Thank you, Senator.
And Ms. Reed, if you can shift Ms. Diver over to the attendee list, or you're welcome to leave. So, Chair recognizes Representative Hassenfuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Olson, if I'm reading this correctly and understand you correctly, I think this motion will work, but I'd like to make a motion that bill ought to pass as amended. And the amendment could be a sub B to the current statute specifying the oil delivery tickets, namely that it would say something along the line of a delivery ticket shall be provided via paper hard copy unless the customer specifically and in writing elects to use electronic ticket through email or other electronic format. I think that covers the ambiguity in the current statute by specifically defining what delivery ticket is and what you have to leave, and also allows for customers to elect to receive it via email or electronic format instead of paper delivery.
Before I ask for a second, Representative Hassenfuss, are you intending by saying that they must elect in writing that must be via paper, or they can't just go onto their online account?
It just needs to be in written. It can be electronic form, writing, paper, however, just it needs to be documented that they select it to receive it via email. So it could be an email, could be a paper they signed and left in the file at the oil company, just as long as it's written. And so, Rachel, you can say that written and use language that specifies electronic signature, electronic form is fine, but there needs to be some sort of documented evidence that the customer chose to receive it via email or electronic form, and not through a actual paper ticket.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Would maybe offer a friendly amendment rather than in writing, to just put a documented, because if you think of lots of, any of our credit card bills or CMP, you can just check a box that says opt in or, to email or, to paperless billing. I don't know if that would work, Ms. Olson, but
Sure. I'm just going to ask, can we back it up and just give me your objective? Tell me what you want it to say. Don't tell me what words you want. I'm going to figure that out. Tell me what you want it to do.
The objective is to state that if somebody does nothing, then it has to be a paper ticket. If they indicate to the company that they like it electronically, then they no longer need a paper ticket.
Is that second? Do you still have the second, Representative Roberts? Okay. Discussion. Chair recognizes Senator Seaway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question. I mean, seems so if it's that serious a fine for not having the paper, there's got to be a reason why it's such a steep fine. I don't know what brought that on to that extent, but I just want to make sure that we cover our bases before we do this. I see the reasonableness of this, but I also am looking out for the constituents of getting that delivery when they really need it. And I don't want to see this messing things up for them. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to make sure that they don't get shortchanged on this decision. So I think I just want to know what the mind. I don't know if Ms. Olson, if you can explain what the mindset of this fine of not having a ticket is. Maybe that's the question I want to ask.
Ms. Olson, do you have a historical perspective on this?
I don't, but I don't have a historical perspective, but I'm going to share that the language is that they could be fined in an amount not less than $50 nor more than $2,000. So $2,000 is not the fine. It could be $50. My guess is that range, and that is a broad offense and penalty section that covers a person who violates either the following enumerated provisions or any provision of the chapter or rules adopted pursuant thereto. This is an old chapter, old language. That range is for any number of violations, those specifically listed in the remaining portion of section 2751 or any other provision. There is no specific penalty tied to the section that we are considering today. So the decision is anywhere between $50 and $2,000. And that, again, we know that that's actually not being enforced, although it could be. So, not sure if that
Thank
helps.
you.
Chair recognizes Representative Ducharme.
Thank you, Chairman Curry. I'm wondering if in the language as we draft this, we should put something like a time frame for when that electronic ticket should be sent out to the electronic customer, if you will, because I'd hate to create a condition where somebody says, okay, well, sometime next Friday, we'll send out all our electronic tickets when you get deliveries throughout the week or whatever. And I know in my case, I want the electronic ticket within 24 hours because number one, because I get a discount if I pay within 5 days. And number two, I want to know how much they delivered when they delivered it. And within 24 hours, I think is a reasonable thing to put in there. So I would just offer that as a kind of a friendly amendment to how this is going to be crafted.
Ms. Olson, Is there anything in that currently that addresses that?
Here we go. Sorry about that. I don't believe there is. I have seen similar language in other, excuse me, I'm just going back and forth. I have seen similar language in other state statutes.
Representative Hassenfuss, is that a friendly amendment you wish to consider, adding the concept of not later than 24 hours or something to that effect?
Yes, yes, I think within 24 hours. It's my understanding that it's typically sent in real time, but I know not every organization has that capacity. I think, in 24 hours of delivery, or some reasonable amount of time would work. So I hear the committee saying within 24 hours, so I'm gonna move that included with my motion.
Representative Roberts, I'm seeing you nod your head, so I will take it you're comfortable with that, continuing your second on that. Is the committee ready for a vote? Seeing no other question, I will ask Ms. Reed to call the roll.
My apologies. What was the motion? I was with IT.
That's quite all right. The motion is to ought to pass as amended.
May I recap it for the committee to make sure I have it correct as well?
Please do.
Okay, so it's ought to pass as amended, and the intent is to make sure that it's clear that if a customer does nothing, then the delivery ticket must be paper, as the current interpretation is. That the customer, or in this case, the word is purchaser, indicates to the company by that they would like the delivery ticket by email, then a delivery ticket is not needed on paper. And to add that such electronic delivery ticket must be provided within 24 hours of delivery. And then I just want to clarify, did you still want language to say that the request by the customer must be documented in some way?
Yeah, that it needs to be documented in some manner. Preferably, easier than hard, but some way that you can show that they did elect via email.
Okay, I think I am clear. I'm clear on the intent.
Ms. Reed, can you call the roll?
All right. Motion was ought to pass as amended. Representative Geiger.
Yes.
Representative Andrews is absent. Representative Collmore is absent. Representative Ducharme.
Yes.
Senator Searway.
Yes.
Senator Rafferty is absent. Representative Pepworth might have turned her camera off.
I think Representative Pepworth had to step away.
Okay.
No one else.
Representative Austin.
Yes.
Representative Bernard is absent. Representative Hassenfuss.
Yes.
Representative LaRochelle is absent. Senator Curry.
Yes.
Someone is printing behind me. Just 1 second. Representative Roberts.
Yes.
As that, I think we've gotten through everybody. Is that correct? Ms. Reed? I'm gonna just see that we've
Yes.
gotten through everybody. Yeah, thank you. With seven in favor and 6 absent and 0 opposed, the report passes. There's no minority report at this point. Just barely got that vote in. So thank you all, everybody. We will close the work session on LD 1896. Ms. Olson, is there any language review for us to consider?
Yes. I have the final versions for two bills. The committee says we've had language review, but now they're final out of the revisor's office. And so this is the version you would see on the floor. So I just have them to share with the committee, just so you can see it, because sometimes it looks a little bit different. For 1793 and 1800, I emailed them as well. So I guess, do you want me to put them on the screen? Are you happy with them through email? Again, these are the final versions, and just giving you a chance to see what they look like, so there's no surprises when you see them on the floor, although in either case, I don't think that would be true, but.
I appreciate the option for no surprises.
Yeah.
People can check their emails and see if there's, oh, that's fine too.
Yeah, I just put it up. So 1793, this is DECD's funding bill. And this just a few word shifts really. And then maybe 1800, again, that has no, there we go. No changes from what was previously
Olson, could
shared.
you again enlarge? the
Oh,
screen?
sure.
Thank you.
So 1800 is the making change to the definition for qualifying venture fund to clarify the qualities.
So, right.
Yep, and the fiscal
Yeah,
notes for these are also attached as well. So minor cost increase to the general fund can be absorbed within existing budgeted resources for 1800. And the fiscal note here, again, minor cost increase general fund absorbed within existing budgeted resources.
Stop sharing. Thank you. Seeing no concerns, you're good to go.
Okay, so as long as the jackets are signed, they will be reported out today, I believe.
Okay, and Ms. Olson, can you and Ms. Reed, can you put the bill that we tabled today onto Tuesday's calendar?
Absolutely. And my last note is that the committee during our last meeting had requested that I share samples of letters that committees have sent as a result of their GEA evaluation reviews. I have sent you a few copies. Truthfully, the majority of samples I found just say that the agency is operating within its statutory authority. There is an example of one where they did make some recommendations that required statutory changes. So there's one sample of that, although noted it is just the first page of said letter. Second page is not included. So those are what I was able to pull for you so you can take a look.
Great, thank you very much. I have a couple questions. See there, Representative Hasselfuss.
Yes, Mr. Reed, I was just wondering if you want to mention to anybody here, if we have any outstanding bill jackets that we have not yet signed.
So Ms. Reed, are you in search of anyone for bill jackets?
I just got my last signature for the two bills that need to be reported out today. I think I'm all set except for the absentee I'm going to have to send out today.
Great, thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Representative Hasselfuss, for checking in on that. Representative Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, I knew we had great minds who think alike. To that very question, if we're away from being able to commit to Ava that on this vote, is that going to file her up if it's not done until next Monday? The signature,
for the bill,
business.
But today, doesn't she still ask us to look down through?
For today, no, you can vote. Did you miss a vote today? Did you miss the?
No. What is it we sign off on even when we voted? Don't we commit on that piece of paper that the vote is correct?
Yeah.
When I get all of my absentee votes in from today. I think they have until Monday at noon to get back to me. I will put that into the jacket, and when the jackets come out, that's what you sign. If there's a unanimous report, I only need either Chair Roberts or Chair Curry to sign that. If there's a divided report, I need everyone.
Okay, so we'd have till Monday.
After Monday, if people wait,
Longer than that.
yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, everybody. I hope you do well through this upcoming storm and stay dry and warm.
Have fun.
Move to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? So long.